think it'll be fine. I mean, hopefully it will drive more people to come to town, which will also, in a way, sort of
bring a
increase
need for,
tax.
exactly,
revenue, yeah.
exactly. I agree with the 0 on the next one. Anybody else? And matching funds available for a limited time. It sounds like you said there might be some funding.
Potentially building
Yeah.
aid. We
Yeah.
just wouldn't know until we applied, but
Yeah.
there is some building aid out there. I just don't know if this project or Londonderry would qualify for it, but
Okay.
we could try.
And the state just did a big increase moving forward a little bit too on state aid, so the sooner we can,
That's why we put it
Yeah,
as
sooner
two,
the
because,
better.
I'm not gonna, tell you
Yeah.
there's building aid and we're gonna get it.
Right.
It's definitely unknown.
Okay. Then let's go with our priority assignment. I said them earlier. Take if anybody has a recommendation on
Like
where
I
they
had said
feel it should
before,
be.
I'll put it as a 1.
Yeah, 1. We'll go with a 1 on that. Wonderful. Moose Hill 1B. Let's see. All right. Addresses an emergency, public safety, or school safety need. I'll take any input on their score for our score. I would agree with the 0.
We couldn't come up with anything
Yeah.
right when we, like,
I mean, I guess school safety wise, it will be expanding out more space within the facility, so.
that would be phase 1. Phase
That's
2
really,
is full
yeah,
day
that's really
K.
phase 1, yeah.
So I think we were hard pressed to.
Yeah.
there is another addition and more space. But as far as safety,
Yeah, I don't
we
see
didn't
it.
see anything, Ted?
Okay.
We probably all agree it addresses a deficiency in service of a facility. Comfortable with the 5 on that. Provides capacity needed to serve existing population or future growth.
Is there any reason that the school district had put a 3 on that, not a higher number? Did you feel like it's not doing its full potential?
I could go higher with it, when I reevaluate here in a group like this.
Yeah.
I think I could go higher on that one.
I guess my only question is, do we think that the designs or potential build-out, we would need to build more to actually make that a 5?
No, I don't think,
Okay.
not at this time, not in anything in the near future that we know about. I
Okay.
think if we build that full day K program, we think it would be able to handle any population growth over a number of years anyways.
Okay.
Raise it to a 4?
Yeah, we can put it at 4.
So we'll do a 4 on that. Results in long-term cost savings. And kind of echo what Ted said a little while ago, just from the last CIP to now, obviously, there's been a big price, increase in pricing. So the longer we wait, the more expensive it's going to get.
And I think also with the full day K, I think in one of our positions is by capturing some of these students early on, you could be deferring some potential special ed costs later on.
I'll bring that from a 3 to a 4. We'll go 4 on that. Supports job development or an increased tax base. Any input?
I think we can leave that where it is.
Yeah, I agree. Leverages the non-property tax revenues.
Now, what goes into this?
That would be because we would qualify for some more adequacy aid from the state, because it's based on your population. So kindergarten right now we only get a half, because they're only there for a half a day. So if they're for a whole day, we would get a full base tuition rate for the student. So
Great.
our adequacy aid would go up.
And is there any reason why the school district felt that would be a 3 instead of a higher number?
I could go higher.
I'm just curious
No,
why.
it's hard to sort of put these numbers on, right, Bob?
I think because we're asking for so much more and going up, there's a happy medium too.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got to ask for $12 million to do this. We're gonna get some adequacy grant per year, per student.
Right.
It will level out at some point, but, so it's a hard thing for us as a committee to just say, yeah, it should be a 4 or 5, so I'd love to hear your input. So.
I mean, it's a number, it's not going to be a huge
Right.
number. I mean, in the grand scheme of the project cost of both the addition and the full day K, it's a consideration.
Do we know what the state is giving out for aid for kindergarten students?
I think the base tuition rate for next year is $4,100 per student.
Yep.
So we'd get like 2,000 additional per student, and there's what, 250 kindergarten students? I mean, for real rough numbers.
So an extra 500 grand a year?
What'd you take, 250 times?
2,000.
2,000?
Yeah.
Sound like you want to move that up one, Ted.
We can leave it where it is.
Okay.
Because it's not like we're getting, I mean, if we were getting closer to what we would get in aid for school-age children, then it would be more of a benefit, I
Okay.
think.
We went back and forth with it, like I said, and we felt pretty comfortable at the 3.
Yeah, let's leave it at a 3. And then matching funds, obviously, is kind of the same as the last one, so I think 2 is appropriate.
Building rank, yep.
All right, priority assignments. Where do we feel that, that this is? Ted?
I would put this as a 1 as well.
And one means urgent.
Urgent, yeah. Cannot be delayed.
I put it as a 2.
Yeah.
I would also put it as a 2 for the rationale is that voters haven't voted for a full day as of yet. And so until that kind of gets more, that picture becomes clearer, then we would want to kind of ensure that this plan matches the desires of the voter.
Coach?
I'm torn between 1 and 2.
Yep.
Because I've seen the presentations from the committee and how much more education these students will get that 1 year. It's astronomical, and what it'll do by the time they get to 2nd, 3rd grade. You know, a lot of the kids are taking, 2, 3, 4 years to get that had half-day from all the information we received from the committee, and this would give them, you're talking a 2.5-hour half-day.
Yeah.
By the time they get in, they get settled, they get packed up, they go, it's like an hour and 35 minutes of class time,
Yeah.
with a break in between, where you're going 6 hours. Yeah, it's play-based, so it's not all education, nose in the book and that, but it's a mixture where they're in this building for 6 hours, regular recess, regular lunch, regular phys ed.
Yeah.
So I wasn't, I'll be honest with you, until the last 2 or 3 presentations, that the education part, and as most of you know, I want Londonderry to be number 1. And this is gonna help us get there. It's gonna help our kids catch up. It's gonna get them ahead of the curve. There's a reason there's only 5 towns that don't have it. It's proven that it's helped in these other districts. Fortunately, those districts had space.
Yeah.
We need to expand to put them there, but we've been kicking this can down the road for a lot of years now.
Yep.
And we're looking at the cost, and, it's a good chunk of money for the taxpayers, but I think overall, the education will exceed the cost in my eyes. And I don't have any children in the kindergarten or that, but I see what's coming down the road for the school district, so I could go 2, I could go 1, so.
And I'll add on, I mean, it's not like I'm trying to look for us to spend money, but
Nope.
as I see over time, things are drastically going up in price every year.
Yeah.
And the other end where we will actually be getting aid from the state by having children being in there full-time, it actually helps pay off this project faster than just putting on a bond and paying it through taxes.
I would be comfortable putting it at a 1. I think we got a 1, a 1, a 2, a 2, and a 1 or a 2. 1 or 2?
I'll go 1.
Sold.
Yeah, I would agree. I think you hit the nail on the head a little bit with kicking the can down the road. I think it's been delayed and delayed and delayed, so let's try and see what we can do to get it to move forward.
The biggest thing was the amount of hours of education they
Yeah.
could get in 1 year.
Last year when we were going through this, I remember talking about, they talked about just how difficult it was when it's inclement weather outside and it's another 15 minutes to get all the kids in and out of their snowshoes and all that, and what that actually does to the day that's only
You
an
got
hour
one
and a half
teacher
long.
with 17, 18
Yeah,
kindergarten,
exactly.
5-year-olds running around trying to get them dressed to go outside for gym,
Exactly.
whatever, to get on the bus.
Exactly.
It just takes that much more away from the schooling. And, moving the kids around half a day to other programs, and there isn't enough of them because they can't get help.
Yeah.
So,
And I think if you haven't seen any of the kindergarten committee presentations, it's definitely worth watching.
Yeah,
I think they're doing a really good job from all angles of, student needs and the data that supports their
I agree.
position on this. So if you haven't seen it or watched it, I would recommend at least reading through those minutes to kind of get their perspective and different professionals from different angles coming in at it and kind of giving you some really good information on it.
Sure. So I think we're good there. We put it as a 1 and,
I also want to kind of say, necessary is needed within 3 years, so I read that as 0 to 3 years.
yeah,
So I-
yep.
So I just wanted to also ensure that, phase 1 and then phase 2. I think when you're looking at bonds, obviously, the town's going to make the best, or the school district's going to make the best decisions, for that. So I just wanted to clarify, I'm not,
Yeah.
I kind of like look at it as a,
Yeah. Okay, on to the high school.
SAU, did we do SAU?
In my thing, it's high school, then SAU, but I can move the SAU over, and we can do the SAU first, that's fine. All right, let's go through this one. Addresses an emergency, public safety, or school safety need. Anybody have any input on that? I think it kind of is what it is. I would agree with it. There really is no safety aspect to it.
no, the only safety aspect I would say is if we get closer to the term of the lease and the landlord either sells the company or
Yeah.
that, and we have no space, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
That's my main concern of
Biggest
being
concern is what happens to your tenant.
at the hold of a landlord. So that's been my worry since day one. Companies are sold and bought, all the time. Somebody may buy it, he may expand, so 2 years from now, he could say, I'm not in a position. He's been very good to us, so, but business is business. That's my emergency and safety need for the district, is we could be spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to fit up somewhere else or spread out district office over various locations, because there wasn't one. And then we're gonna be under the gun to do something where we've pre-planned this already. We've already spent upwards of 100,000 for a rough set of plans that we have on hand for to what Jeff said, a pad-ready site that is still available, but we have to have those talks internally, but just for the purpose of addressing an emergency, it could be an emergency at any point in time when you're at the whim of a landowner. Municipalities should never be under the control of the landowner. You want to rent as a family or, as a single parent, a single adult, fine, but, we don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. That's the only building that we have no control over.
Yeah.
The town controls all their buildings, and that's the problem I have, is you can pre-plan and save all kinds of money and do planning, and to the point, we do have 4 years after this year, but
4 years isn't a long
it,
time.
by the time you do the pricing, you get under construction, takes a year and a half because of lead times.
Yep.
And then you move in, you could be out of there a year ahead of time, which puts $250,000 towards the bond payment rather than another year of the lease, because we do have options to vacate the property, at any point with 8 months' notice. So, yeah, it's a 10-year, but it was a 10 one-year leases. So,
Yeah.
but the emergency part, that's the only spot I see as an emergency.
Anybody else have any additional input on that?
And I would agree that you know, that number may need to change from a 0 to a higher number based off of, you know, I guess, you know, certainly not emergency or public safety wise, but on a financial, safety wise.
I want to bring it up a point.
At least to 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Bringing it up to one,
One.
One? Okay, we'll do a 1 on that. Addresses a deficiency in service or facility. I would agree with the 5. I don't know if anybody has any different opinion on that, but
I disagree with the 5.
disagree with the 5. Okay.
I don't think longer commutes equal less of a service. I just don't.
Okay.
I don't buy it.
Okay. Ed?
And I think it can stay as a 5, as certainly as it, current location makes a disservice to the teachers themselves throughout the workday, but also the residents within town who have to travel from the very south end of town. And it's not a centralized location for all families and students and teachers.
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, keeping it at a 5. Being a South School family that does do business up at District, it is a 25-minute commute. 28 if I hit all the lights. So,
Right?
but it's very, but my main thing with the district office is, what concerns me is the lease that we're in.
Yeah.
So, but that's not with
Getting close
this
to the end.
level, yeah. So, keeping it at 5 would.
I'd be good with keeping it at a 5. Provides capacity needed to serve the existing population or future growth. And what?
No, keeping it as,
Keep it at a 5?
keep it at a 5.
I mean, there should be plenty of space design within the other building that they were looking to do in the past, so should be fine to say it as 5.
Long-term cost savings, I think we touched on that earlier in the meeting.
Sooner.
Yep. Job development, increased tax base. Would it support job development? Would you be looking to add administration if you were in a new building?
I think that's a question for the school district.
I would say no, not at this time unless population went up or enrollment went up. I think the SEU is adequately staffed and they aren't looking to add positions in just because they have a building, so
Okay.
I would say no on jobs in there. But by bringing people into town, I think that's more the angle, people coming into town for the schools.
So I think this one is kind of written kind of funny because really it should be it should be kind of in a way a boosting number the other way around, because if it's, how should I say, it's not really helping, if we're not bringing in more jobs, then that is a benefit. If they don't plan to hire more people. And it's not really, it is increasing the tax base for what we actually have to pay in taxes, though. But it's not really increasing our taxable revenue. Because it's not really a big driver to bring people to town, unlike the auditorium or other school buildings. So,
Jeff, any thought on that number that's there?
I mean, we use a lot of the space for teacher workshops, and we bring in people to do workshops rather than ship them out. And that's what we looked at the square footage to kind of match what we had up there, but we reduced it by about 1,100 square feet from what they're in.
Yep.
Because it was just over 10,000, and we were just about 9,000
Yep.
with what we proposed a year and a half ago. But rooms are set up for development of staff, and doing it internal rather than paying mileage and
Okay.
shipping them out. So I think that's why we came to a 3. was
Yeah.
we utilize the space more than just for an office space. It's developmental, and that is what we had talked about as a board.
All right, I'm comfortable with that. Anybody else?
leave it at a 3.
leverages the non-property tax revenues. I'd agree with what's there, if anybody disagrees. And matching funds available for a limited time. Doesn't sound like-
SAU offices do not qualify for building aid.
Okay. Priority assignment. Any input?
And considering the lease is only good for another 10 years, right?
4 years.
4 years. Oh, 4
It
years.
was a 10-year lease altogether. Yeah.
Then I would put it as a 2.
Yeah, I can't see it any other than a 2 for this year.
I'd say 3.
I would agree that it's, needed within 3 years, because if we're at the end of year 3, we're gonna be very close to needing to add on to our lease in order to,
Yeah, and you can see that interest rates have gone up about 1.6%
yeah,
since we first time,
Yep.
and costs have gone from 4.8 to 5.2.
yeah,
So the sooner,
yeah,
where it's that much of a need, like I said, it's gonna be on the future agenda here in the next month to just talk about it with the board on direction, where we're gonna go.
okay. Okay. I'd be good with a question for you. Do you think this is, more urgent than, Moose Hill 1B, Coach?
No,
No? Okay. So I'd leave,
education's number one.
okay,
I
perfect.
mean, if we have to, unfortunately, spend more money, I don't like to say that
Yep.
too loud.
Yep.
But the education is gonna bring a lot more to the community,
Okay.
and getting this building built tomorrow.
Okay.
Like I said, we need hard numbers on this too. It could be more than 5.2, the interest rates could change from now till bond time. They come out twice a year, right, Lisa? June, July, and January?
Yes.
Yeah, so we won't know what the next in, and they just bumped it last week, the feds, and it
Yeah.
could be another bump.
Okay.
So we're at somewhere now, so,
The rates weren't all that bad. If anybody's
3 point
interested,
something.
for the July offering, a 10-year bond was 2.71%. No, 2.96%. And a 20-year bond was 3.65. So we're actually surprised that they were lower than we expected for the bond.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
I'd be comfortable with a 2. A 2? We'll do a 2.
Yeah.
All right. The high school. Obviously, I mean, if anybody's walked through this section of the high school, I think you'd probably agree there's a school safety need there. Does anybody have a disagreement with a 5?
No.
Deficiency in a service or a facility? Any input?
I should say it's 5.
Provides capacity needed to serve existing population or future growth. I'd like to hear a little input on that. Curious why we chose a 3.
I think we're just so preliminary on what that
Yeah.
project would even look like. It's hard to really say on that one. I mean, clearly, when we were there, they would design a building that would accommodate future growth, so I guess we could have scored it higher, knowing that that would happen when we finally got there.
Okay. Yeah.
No, I agree with that number.
So we'll stick with 3 on that. Long-term cost savings. Got a 2 there. Anybody have any disagreements?
And I would put a higher number on that as, I just imagine, if we keep on adding on, potentially 10% every year, if we keep on kicking this down the road, what that will actually look like. If we wait another 5 more years, we're looking at another, at least $60 to $70 million, potentially.
Okay. Do you have a proposed number for that?
I would put a 4. Really, you have to look at this line item as results in long-term savings because you're doing this sooner rather than later.
well, yeah.
Yep.
It's gotta be done at some point, sometime, and the sooner, of course, it's gonna be less or level out.
Right.
We just don't know what that is, we don't have a crystal ball, so we were kinda torn on this one. Where we know it's at least in the 5 to 6 year range to at least there. But I would agree that it's definitely at this point in time, there's no sign of things going the other way.
Okay.
So,
Ted, you're proposing a 4.
I would propose a 4.
Anybody else have any input on that?
I'd say 3.
3? Jeff?
No, I would say a 4.
I'd go with a 4, so we can do 4 there. Supports job development or an increased tax base. Are you guys looking at this one as a 4? I don't really see that.
I think, again, if you have an attractive high school, you're going to bring in more people to the community. A high school would be a school that would attract residents to the town. So I think the angle on that would be more residents to the town, more job base, more tax base, more development potentially.
Any comment from the board?
I think that's the way we looked at it, is if the plans go forward, we may see a slight increase in enrollment. I don't know that that's the only driver, but, you know, the school does have the capacity to go at least another 200 students at this point in time without anything, but the additions are to bring the school up to current standards. And you gotta remember, this town never built a high school. That was a middle school, and then added on to it in all areas to create a high school. So it's a tough call, you know, on that one.
The other part of this item is it includes the auditorium, where the majority of towns around us, I guess you could say, are more top-tier schools have the auditorium. Between Bedford, Wyndham, Bow, and Derry, they all have.
There is a big calling for arts, more arts and that, so, in function areas like that, so.
Okay. Jeff?
No, I'm definitely looking at it, you know, with, or keeping with the assessment of what was presented to us. I was gonna definitely bring up the auditorium piece as well. You know, that is just kind of I look at as, you know, obviously a good, you know, community room for the town, but also a multi-purpose classroom as well. So, I mean, you know, so there's that aspect.
I think it services the students that are interested in the arts much
Absolutely.
better with an auditorium. I mean,
Absolutely. So definitely so I'd keep that as a 4.
I'd say 3.
I see a 2 on it, so maybe 3 would be a decent compromise there. Everybody all right with that?
That's a tough one,
Yeah.
you know.
Leverages the non-property tax revenues. We probably all see that as a 0.
Yeah, because we're not getting any new revenue from the state, because
Yeah.
we're not increasing our student capacity.
Yep. And then it looks like this one's a little higher on the matching funds.
because I think our potential of getting building aid is greater on this project because of the wooden construction in phase 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a real safety issue, and we potentially have a better chance of getting building aid here than I think we would at Moose Hill.
At any other school?
Yep.
Okay. So we'll leave that one with a 4. Okay. Priority assignments. Take any input?
Mr. Chair, can I just clarify the non-property tax revenues is a 0?
Yep.
And the
Yes.
last is a 4?
Yes.
Thank you.
This seems relatively important from a structural standpoint, or safety standpoint. I don't think I don't know that it's a 1. But I feel like 6 years is a long time from now.
I mean, frankly, I don't know how someone hasn't fallen to the floor or how it hasn't caught fire by now.
But anybody else?
I would go 2.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning on it.
I believe as a board, there'll be discussion this fall to start some sort of committee, which is probably gonna
To
take
get
a
the ball
year
rolling.
to 2 years to put together and get all the info. We already have the master plan, but I think a high school committee, starting to work on it while we're doing other things, just, that's gonna have to lay it out, then we're gonna have to do some budgeting for, some renderings and that, like we did with district office, and
Yeah.
that'll be a year, so
Yep.
there's 3 years.
Yep.
And then possibly coming, ahead with some good pricing for CIP and for the community. So you're in that 4 to 6 year range right now, so it kind of falls into the 2-3 years maintain basic level. Something could happen tomorrow, but I think 2 puts us in that 3 to 4 years. And hopefully within the 6 year of the CIP that we're underway and got something
Yep.
forecast, if not started, but there's a lot of other things that,
Anybody disagree with the 2?
I don't disagree with the two.
Okay. So 2 it is? Wonderful. All right. So just to recap, Moose Hill 1A is a 1, Moose Hill 1B is a 1, the SAU project is a 2, and the high school is a 2. All right. On to the Lions Hall. Let's see here. I think I saw something in Lions Hall CIP worksheet. Okay. Mr. Wally.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Dave Walling, I'm Director of Public Works and Municipal Facilities. And I'm here this evening to discuss entering into the CIP, the formerly known as the Lions Hall or the Rev. Morrison Meeting House, and actually at one point it served as a town hall. Just for some brief history on the building itself. Last September, our tenant of about 50 years, the Lions, vacated the building, and we have now assumed all the property and all of its contents and maintenance included in that. The facility dates back to the 1700s, and myself and the town manager have recently taken a field trip over to a similar structure in Derry as well. They've been undergoing more of a real restoration project of a similar design type of a church over there, and the challenges that they're experiencing with that when you're looking at a facility like this. Just to kind of give us a little bit of an idea of what we may run into. But this is a little bit different of a project than what they're doing over there, and they've been at it now for almost 12 years and spent close to $2 million, and they're about halfway done. So, in October of last year, we hired Weston Sampson to come in and do a pretty good overview of the building. We didn't get into really ripping apart walls and lifting up the floor that we know is in failure mode. And they gave us a really good professional glimpse, if you will, into what they see as going to be some real potential problems when we get into a renovation of this type of a project. And they had us anywhere in a ballpark of $1 to $3 million plus if we were to actually just level the property and build a brand new structure. Now, leveling the property is not an option. Leveling the building, it has some, like I said, some very historic value to the community, and we want to really try and preserve that look and that feel and that luster that the town has experienced for centuries. So, when considering this for CIP, we feel comfortable with the $1 to $2 million range, with the guesstimate as to what the useful purpose of the building will be. We've spoken to many different groups, people, community leaders, the town manager, considering operational needs of the town and some things that we think that this facility could continue to serve the town of Londonderry moving forward into the future. We see it as something that would serve well as a community center, that would support lots of ongoing type of events in town, with the Old Homes Day celebration is certainly the most large. The Wednesday night concert on the Common is very popular, the Christmas on the Commons, and whatnot, and then perhaps even serve some recreational needs as well for the department, and perhaps even the library. And depending on what groups that we either partner with or wish to utilize the facility, perhaps even the the Lions have meetings there, or other types of volunteer effort groups in town. So that's where we're at with the building now, with the exception of, we have now moved into bringing back Weston and Sampson. Now that we kind of have a little bit of an idea as to what we think we could use it for, we gave them some small vision as to what we would like to see conceptually on paper. What would that feel like? What would the facility kind of look like? How could we rectify some of the HVAC needs, electrical upgrades, making it a safe facility as far as life safety code is concerned, ADA compliance, and what have you, and how could we do that in a way that doesn't take away from the charm of the facility itself? And those renderings, if you will, should be back to me. I had a meeting with them last week, and we should have something back within the next 3 to 4 weeks that I can look at, I can discuss with the town manager. We can probably kick it back to them and say, well, we like this, we don't like that, enhance this a little bit more, or reel back on something as well. And then from there, really would become, a design type situation. And designing something brand new, like a SAU unit, is a lot easier than when you're dealing with a structure that is, several hundred years old. So, but we believe that it's an important effort that needs to be gone through in order to save the facility. As we get into the form, I'll just speak right out that the urgency that I see is that in the short time now, we're coming up on a year that's been vacant. I already see any facility that you'll just leave vacant, you keep the heat set low and you keep the AC either low or off, you're going to see rapid decay in a facility. So when you have a structure this age, rodents move in quickly, there's some infestation going on that moves in quickly. You see paint peeling and settling, and even the floor, which is kind of what brought this all about, is settling even more. There's one particular area that I'm looking at that I thought was moving, and it clearly is after we went in there the other day. So this isn't something that we can just sit around for 5-6 years, because then we may not have to be here at the CIP process. It'll be pretty evident what we need to do with that building, and we don't want to lose it. So that's really the only urgency that I see here. But for the chair, if you want to,
Yep.
we can move through the.
So we'll go through our evaluation criteria here. We'll start off with an addresses an emergency, public safety, or school safety need. Anybody have any input on that?
Leave that as a 5.
Yeah,
I would agree.
I would have to agree that that's gotta be a 5.
I just have a general question. We didn't get to ask questions. Is there any reason why, besides just historical value, that we just can't sell this? It just seems like a money pit to me.
We could. That's certainly an option, selling it, moving on. I think that there's a lot of emotional connection to the property. It also has some some great centralized location, obviously, across from the common. And, like anything, you can sell anything, but would that be in the best interest of the community as a whole? I don't think so, unless if we could be guaranteed some sort of tenant that would partner with the town to allow it for some other, usages when we need it.
Can we
And I'll
take
certainly defer to my larger boss to the.
I'm just an elected official. I'm not your boss.
No,
He's your boss. I think part of it is it's on town property. It was relocated there. It's Reverend Morrison's original meeting house. Finding a buyer would want to dismantle it, and I think that based on the feedback we've gotten from those people who follow history in the town, it would be strongly opposed. The council's looking to move it to the ballot this year.
Okay, that was my next question.
To see what we, at least take it through the budget process to figure out if we can move it to the ballot for this year and have that discussion. So, and that's up to the council and the budget committee what they want to do.
Okay.
The other thing, Mr. Chair, I will say is this, in terms of, do we want to just retain it for the history and because, selling it is not an option? I think, there's some people who, I think there's a lot of people who feel that way. Separately, I would point out a couple of different things. One is, in the coming, 5 to 10 years, I see opportunities to enhance our recreation offerings. We don't have any space for recreation staff right now. As, we went through the SAU negotiations last year. In fact, the SAU is going to kick us back a couple of extra offices because we are out of office space at Town Hall. We have a part-time recreation director right now. I certainly foresee a growing need to staff up the recreation department and enhance the offerings that we have available to the community. I also see a need for community space. That's something that's been talked about at a lot of town council meetings recently. There is no shortage of groups who want to reserve space for their meetings in public spaces. And I think that retaining the Lions Hall would certainly enhance our ability to do that.
Since this is so loved by people, is there any chance that we could fundraise for that somehow instead of raising taxes?
There's always a way to fundraise for things. I mean, part of the problem with the Lions Hall is that it was maintained by, and I mean this in a kind way, by amateurs for a number of years. When we replaced the floor a number of years ago, and people wonder why we continue to maintain the building. We own the building. We had a leasing and we did have a lease, but we own the building. We have to keep it being safe. When we pulled the floor up, it was all being held up by literal tree trunk timbers with the bark still on it. I mean, and then someone was kind enough to go under the building after, most recently. And we wish we probably would have known this before, but apparently, and probably because of all the rain we're getting this year, there's literally a river running underneath the building. So it's, the footings are not holding. If we don't, fundraising would be a great option if we had time. I don't know how much time we have, because if the floor gives, the walls come in, and that's the end. So we need to have a serious discussion, with the council and the budget committee about, like, what do we do? And so it's a great option, but I think time is working against this.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I mean, I do love it's a great space. It's an excellent location, and it definitely meets the future needs of the town and such. And I respect the historical aspect of that. I think that's important for a community of our size to have historic buildings that that has the opportunity to tell the town's story. And I know that you did the estimates of kind of replacing it, which is not something that we want to entertain, but is that I guess, even if we were to renovate it to to current standards to meet all safety and other types of building codes and such, for a 8-hour day or location that would serve the town, is the structure of the building, would we be here 10 years saying we've got a lot of use from this building and it's just not holding up?
No, we don't see anything too dire like that. Now, if we leave the building sitting vacant for some time and I go in every once in a while, we'll have a staff member go in every once in a while and make sure that we catch anything, if anything is really going wrong. But the initial impression that the very different disciplines of engineers that we had look at it believe that this is a structure that is definitely worth saving. It's certainly not in the condition of the one that we previewed. If we had that kind of a status, then I'd probably be looking at different options. But the Lions, did some things that were good and some things that were just, they just some of the materials used inside was T111 siding instead of having chair rail and millwork. They used T111 siding and painted it, I mean, so it took away from some of its original charm and character, but they made it work. The floor will be addressed. They've already come up with a few ways to do that. They don't see the need to prop up the building and jack it up and then put, a concrete foundation under it. There are some parts on the back that they think would be best served to remove, so that a more modern addition could go on the back, but it would stay within the envelope and not change the physical appearance from the street. And therefore, things like the kitchen, the HVAC stuff, water service, instead of then, the well that they have, and all the things that are really the expensive stuff, if you will, to a facility, upgraded electrical and everything, that could all be new and in the back. And that, when we started talking in that kind of way, they really thought that that would help keep the costs down, because you're not having to deal so much with all the old part of the structure. So we can have modern, new in the back for the mechanical stuff, bathrooms and things of that nature, and perhaps even add to, I don't want to give away a little bit too much of what we're talking about doing, because we got to make sure that it's possible too. But ways that makes the facility more usable and user-friendly to the different events that we have over in that area. And again, try to actually restore some of the charm and some of the millwork and some of the looks. There is some tin ceiling in what we're contemplating as a front office space instead of then the mechanical room right now, and the old vault and safe that's there, that's in still great shape, that could, and some exposed brick inside that we think that could really bring back a lot of the look to the building. But we don't want to go so far as getting into like L-chip grants and things like that, because from my own experience and the town manager's experience and even the folks that we just toured with, there's a lot of, tangibles that come with those types of monies and things that you got to do and materials you got to use, and that drives the cost astronomically high.
Yeah.
So we're trying to find that nice medium, middle ground between historical charm, preserve the building itself for the community, and make it a user-friendly space in modern-day needs of ADA compliance and things of that nature, so.
Yeah, and what we'll try to do at the council level is try to come up with, a number and something that's palatable to the voters, that's not saying, we need $10 million, maybe we need, $1 million. I'm just throwing numbers around and just say, this is what it's gonna take, and this is, I just came from a pickleball meeting, people are looking for the town to have more recreational services and everything.
Great place for
And it's a centralized place, much like the SAU would be a centralized place. Coming to the middle of town just seems to work. I mean, Concerts on the Common has taken off. We'll probably need more support for that going into the future. People like things, they want them to get better. So that's the difficult part about this facility. It is so visible. But we have one more opportunity to do it correctly and not Band-Aid it. So, but we have to have a serious conversation during budget process about what does that look like? And what will the voters support? So that's the hard part.
And I think that's why we, after much discussion with the town manager, we think that the conceptuals that we'll be bringing forward will really help bring that
visualize it,
vision.
yeah.
Because when you talk about it like this, you start jumping all around, and really it's more about, what is this gonna look like? What will it feel like? That type of space, how can we use it? And I think the discussion's gonna be very robust, and there'll be a lot of excitement behind it. And people, it'll quickly show the town that, wow, this is really important to do, so.
Thank you.
Anything else? Go on to the, I believe we were on addresses a deficiency in a service or a facility. You can't, that's a 5. You can't use the facility right now, so.
No.
I think we'd all agree that's a 5. provides capacity needed to serve existing population or future growth.
It's definitely a 5.
That's a 5 as well, I think in particular for future growth of some of the stuff the town manager and Mr. Wally just spoke on.
I think the results on long-term cost savings, that should actually be a 5, because with weather and wear and tear, this building very well is deteriorating quickly.
Well, I can tell you right now that the largest cost savings you'll see is if we, can modernize it to some extent, the heat loss in that building is,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
it's,
It retains heat.
you're heating a little bit of the outside when
Yep.
the heat's on, so.
So, it sounds like we want to put that at a 5.
I would put that as a 5.
Okay with that? Supports job development and an increased tax base. I think we did talk a little bit a few minutes ago about adding potential spots or increasing their recreation department, so that'd be a little bit of job development. Increased tax base, I don't know that it would increase the tax base necessarily.
At a 1,
Yeah,
what's there?
I would agree with that. Leverages non-property tax revenues, I would agree with that.
Yeah, they're looking to potentially maybe rent out space occasionally, so
Yeah.
we'd have small revenues come in, right?
Yeah, that area was difficult for me to kind of put a number on because, again, not having a very complete picture as
Of
to.
what it's gonna be.
What's the
Yeah.
useful purpose? I think the hall is obvious, but to what extent does the town want to get into the business of being a landlord or being,
Yeah.
we're gonna have, birthday parties there, bingo nights, we're gonna need somebody to manage
Manage
this.
the building.
Do we want to use the pavilion for, other avenues? But I do see that there's definitely some revenue there. I mean, we currently kind of already are in the business with the senior center, and as was the Lions Hall prior to. So I think that there's something definitely there, but to quantify that,
Yeah.
I think it would be an offsetting revenue stream to support the operational cost of the building.
Yeah.
But for a tax revenue stream, that's
Yeah.
tough
We
to
can
gauge.
definitely leave it as a
You're
1.
gonna take some in, but you're gonna spend some out to manage it. and-
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's a,
Wash.
Right.
gotcha.
Sounds like we're all pretty good with a 1. And then matching funds available for a limited time.
My rationale there initially was, again, depending upon, how much of a push would there be about, we want to bring it back to 1769. You could go L-chip. I really don't think L-chip is the way to go with this project. But when I was talking with Weston and Sampson, there are still some small grants here and there that, you could, and depending, again, like I was talking about on the back of the building, if we do get a little bit of green and put some solar panels that are on the back of the addition that you still won't be able to see it, that there is money available for stuff like that.
Like a 2 is pretty appropriate.
Yep.
So puts us at 24. And CIP priority assignment. Any
It's a
input?
1 to me.
Yeah, seems like it's a 1.
Yeah, for the health and safety of the building, and let alone if we want to ever use it in the future, it seems like it's more of an immediate need than
I would agree.
taking it down the road.
I would agree. All right. Okay, so we are through the Lions Hall here. We've done our scoring, our prioritization, and our placement in the 6-year program. Do we have any other business? Oh, you wanna go through that one as?
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
because I think it's theoretically possible for the placement to differ from the assignment, although
Yeah.
I think it would be unusual.
Sure.
There was one last year, as we discussed, Mr. Chair, where that was
Yeah.
the case.
Yep,
So if you just bear with me a second, I can bring in the assignments. They're all 1s except for the SAU and the high school.
All right, so, Mr. Chairman, having run this committee for 15 years, I would say that the members need to keep in mind that the placement is probably the most important thing you do on this entire thing. So you're coming in with priorities of priority 1 and priority 2. That basically says that you're looking at, budget years of the next 1 and 2 years. If that's what you're saying, that's okay. Understand it can go to the planning board and they can change it. But also understand when you finalize this document, you're telling the voters that you're going to have 5 projects coming at them in the next 1 to 2 years. So just understand that when you do it, and understand your reasoning for why you're doing it so that you can answer their questions when they ask. Just a point of view from somebody who did it for a little while.
Sure. Absolutely.
Well, but
That was my nice way of saying, I wish you the best of luck.
Thanks.
Maybe we could bring the high school to a 3, which puts it in the 4 to 6,
Yep.
and then move up the Lions Hall and put the high school.
I guess we'll kind of go with what I see as the easy one, is the Lions Hall. Seems like it's relatively urgent. I feel like that should stay as a 1. Does anybody disagree with that?
No.
So we can put that as a 1. Looking for input, does anybody feel like that should extend, anything in there should extend out to a 3 or a 4? I think the SAU project is probably a 3. Or do you think that's more of a 4? Or do you think it's more of a 2?
3 is 4 to 6 years.
Yeah,
The lease has got 4 years.
yep. So it's really, again, if we're trying to do it before the lease is up, it's really more of a 2.
Right.
Yeah, because you need to
Yep.
plan that project.
Yep.
Best case, 18 months.
Leave it as a 2.
I think a 2 is appropriate,
Yeah.
yeah. The high school,
And there's large safety concerns of putting that further off.
yeah.
But it's gonna be that long. It's still gonna be in the works,
Right.
but it's still gonna be 4 to 6 years.
Oh, yeah.
So changing it to a 3 doesn't,
Doesn't really affect anything.
You don't have to change your priorities, you just have to be careful where you place them.
Yeah.
correct,
Yep.
correct.
And Mr. Chair, these projects are gonna reappear next year. on the
Yes, absolutely.
Next week, or next
Absolutely.
Yeah,
year's
'cause something could
CIP.
change.
Well, and some of these items could move up the list as
Right.
we're going down.
Yeah. So want to leave that where it is? Okay. And Moose Hill, 1A and 1B.
1A is a 1.
Yeah. I don't know if I agree that 1B is a 1. Input?
okay with a 2.
I mean, just for a concern of time for the building practices, I would have liked to have seen these both as one project instead of separated out into 2.
Yeah, we're not at a position yet. We won't be
Yeah, they're
until the
presented
fall,
as 2.
unfortunately,
Yeah,
so.
they're presented as 2, so. Jeff?
I would say 2. I mean, voters haven't
Yep.
approved that
Yeah.
at all.
Yep.
That's what too.
And the 1A is theoretically, we could
That's
move on it.
That should have been done a long time ago.
Yeah. So, I think that's good as a 2. Looks like that's the only one that differs from our priority assignments. I'm comfortable with all those, if anybody has any additional input. I know there's a lot of 1s and 2s on there, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of stuff that needs to happen,
Right.
you know?
I think that's just the reality of where we
Yeah,
are right now.
Exactly.
Well, and eventually down the line, we're going to have to start looking at Matthew Thornton as well,
Mhm.
the whole front side of it. So I'm sure you guys will be coming at us with that next year or the year after, right?
No,
No?
That's outside
That's
of
after
the,
the high
that's
school.
outside of the, yeah. It's outside.
Okay.
Here.
Because all three have to be done, will be done at the same time.
Wow.
Elementaries,
Yep.
Okay.
you know, it's just so much planning and we can only ask for so much.
Of course.
It's a 15, 20-year build-out,
Unfortunately.
yeah.
Well, I'm good with that. I think we're all in agreement here, so we can, move on to our, next step. Says other business. Any other business?
The only thing you want to do is tell the public that you're going to be presenting this to the planning board in the beginning of September.
Sure. I think it's the September 7th meeting, Jeff?
It's the workshop meeting or the,
August 7th is our second meeting. So we, the CIP will be presenting this to the planning board on September 13th with a public hearing on October 4th at 7 PM both days.
Mr. Chair, since it's my first time through this process, is that something that you would like me to attend for that too, or is that
That'd be
something that you?
wonderful.
Sorry?
Yeah. Sure. I'm sure you can help answer any questions the planning board might have. So if you would like to volunteer, Mr. Wally.
You did a great job up there explaining it.
So we don't need the second meeting for the CIP, we're gonna go right to the planning board?
I don't think
Yeah.
we need it.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
definitely not.
We did have a tentative meeting for August 7th. We've gone through everything, so I don't think we need it. I think we moved a lot smoother this year than we did last year.
You think?
Yeah, just a little bit. So, we do not need that meeting, and we'll see everybody at September 13th at 7 PM. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Wonderful.
That 13th, you want the whole committee there?
Yeah, I think it should be.
Surely, so you'll
Yeah.
be there in date.